Welcome to today's podcast, Healing Through Love, with Dr. Matt Singer, a holistic medicine specialist with an expertise in energy work, homeopathy, and works with people all around the world to help them remove emotions trapped in the body. And co-host Holly Celiano, a mother, intuitive healer, and well known to international audience as a resource for truth seekers on a variety of global concerns that are currently impacting humanity. Today's focus, how pain becomes opportunity.
Hello, everybody. I'm Holly Celiano, and I am here with my co-host, Dr. Matthew Singer. And today we're going to talk about how pain becomes an opportunity to empower ourselves and others. So this is something a lot of people go through pain, but pain actually can be used as a catalyst to propel us forward, not only in our lives, but on our spiritual journey and to dig down deeper to change ourselves. So I know you deal with this a lot, Matt, with the patients you see and them having pain. What is it that you see how pain can move you forward?
So, Holly, I'll tell you the biggest thing that I have learned about pain and suffering is that it's resistance to our natural self. And I've heard a lot of great speakers like Bashar and other great mediums talk about it, but it's literally a resistance to our natural self. That's where we are cutting ourselves off from our true power. And we're giving into the ego, we're giving into the fears, and we are not living our true power. And that basically creates like a natural energy blockage. You know, just like if there's a surge of energy and it can't get to where it has to go, it heats up and it just fries. So that in essence is what happens with us is when we're dealing with the inability to really know our power and to trust our power, we move into pain. And that's what I see with a lot of patients. They get stuck in their old thinking and they get stuck in their ego brain and fear takes over. And then they live a life of sympathetic overdrive.
I also see with a lot of people, they manifest pain and it creates a constant manifestation within them, and they identify themselves from that pain instead of breaking through that pain barrier.
You're absolutely right. Once a person identifies with the pain or with an illness, those are the types of people that come into our office, and I could tell them everything that they want to hear, and they still will reject it because they've identified with it. And once I can get them to understand, to almost like, I tell them, I want you to imagine your higher self and then your ego. And if you could see how your ego can actually be pulled away from your higher self. The ego is the part that says, my role is to make sure I wake up every morning remembering this pain and suffering, because that's my job and that's my identity. And if you no longer need me to do that, then I'm not going to be needed. So my biggest fear is you're not going to need me anymore. So the ego does such a great job in making sure we wake up every morning re-identifying with the pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm. I know when I went through all my surgeries, the pain was so intense and it took so much inner strength to break out of living in that chronic state of pain. But I will say this, with the pain, it brought me into a deeper place within my being that had I not had the pain, I wouldn't have gone within. It's almost like I shut out the outside world and I just went inside because I was in so much pain, and then looked at my life and all my choices, and then decided from that pain, I'm going to grow and move beyond this. Like, this is not going to identify who I am. The pain had me basically stop life, stop living, and just focus on all the choices I've made that brought me to this point.
Yeah. So this is excellent. So let me break this down for you and ask you these questions. So basically what you're telling me, and this is so perfect, is that when you were waking up into the pain and remembering that pain, and then living with that pain, and then made a conscious choice to go within, the pain and suffering stopped, and then you became empowered, correct?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that was the moment that you made the choice that this pain and suffering was no longer your identity.
Correct.
And then
And
when you did that, that's when your higher self was able to come out and speak, and then you became empowered, correct?
yes.
Yes.
And it's very interesting in my life. I think I had set up to have pain and suffering. I felt I needed to have pain and suffering in order to grow. So I had so much pain and suffering, but every time I grew and I'm like, okay, so here we go. Here's another opportunity to learn. And then one of my spiritual teachers said to me, Holly, you don't have to go through pain and suffering to grow. You can just, that's a program that you adopted that you feel you have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Break that programming. You can grow in ease and grace without having to, be taken down so hard and make it such a painful lesson.
Yes. You know what's so fascinating about what you're talking about. So all choices to the higher self are equal and valid. So the soul sits back as the observer and it says, okay, well, this choice of pain and suffering that I'm experiencing is a valid choice. And I'm learning who I am through the pain and suffering. And I'm learning I could stay stuck where I am, or I can use this to realize this is not who I am. Then it says, okay, my choices of feeling healthy and powerful and whole, that's a valid choice also. And I could use that to realize who I am, to know who I'm not. So either choice, the soul says, either way, I'm the observer and I will allow myself to have this experience. That's the free will. And then once we realize that this experience doesn't serve us, oh my gosh, that's where, like you're saying, this incredible power came out of you. And you just knew you were a different version of yourself. You stepped into a brand new version where that pain didn't exist anymore, where the illness didn't exist anymore. You were a new version.
Right. Absolutely. And I could feel it. I could feel the shift. It's like I had heightened awareness about the world. I was looking through different lenses
Mm-hmm.
and life felt different. People felt different. I felt different. And that's when you make that conscious shift to basically up level who you are and not be that old version of yourself.
Yes. Now let's go even deeper on this one because I love this subject. So when you made that conscious decision to shift, your world shifted. So the house we're living in looks the same. The clothes we're wearing looks the same. Our friends and family look the same, but we are now a different version. We have literally slipped into a new earth, a new reality. So we are not the same person we were. We have literally shifted into a new reality. The outer looks the same, but the inner is completely different.
Correct.
And that was something which, when I first was learning this, I said, wow, that is so deep. That is so deep. So we're literally, like Joe Dispenza says, we're moving into a new version of ourselves.
Correct.
Yes. And then once you accept that new version that we've created, because there's infinite versions, we then realize we have the choice. I can go back to that old version that doesn't serve me, and the pain and suffering will come back. Or I can stay where I am and keep moving forward in this empowerment and keep feeling better and better, and now start to empower and teach others.
Right.
Right? Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. Yes.
So then,
Yeah.
in a sense, that's where you became the ultimate creator of your reality.
Yes. Because
Right?
our thoughts and beliefs create our reality.
Mm-hmm.
And with this new version of myself that I am not that pain anymore, the pain forced me to take a really hard inventory look of myself, my life, my choices, and say, I don't like where I am right now, and I'm going to change on every level of my being. And I
Yes.
did. And it does take a lot of fortitude to go
Yes.
through that.
A tremendous amount.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say when you were in the thick of the pain and you felt like you just couldn't get over it and you weren't up to speed yet with realizing that you could change, and you're in the thick of it where you thought this is the worst thing ever. And you're in that pain and you're in that illness, right? And then you were to meet me at that point and I were to say to you, you can change this in an instant. Would you have been ready to hear it or not?
Not then. No. Mm-mm. I had to go through all that pain to bring me to the point I am now. I wasn't ready at that level, but as you and I know, I experienced something this winter with you. I don't want to go into the details of that, but it was extremely painful. It really took me down hard. And you looked at me and you said, Holly, you can change this in an instant right now. And if you don't, then you're going to have another lesson even harder. So you have the choice right now. Your higher self is saying, do you want to change right now? Or do you want to have a harder lesson? And you know what? I didn't want to go through any more pain. And in that instant, and I remember it in your office, just looking at you and I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to be dwelling in that pain anymore. I instantly chose to shift, and I did.
Yes.
I could just feel like everything lift off of me.
Yes. Now let me ask you this. So when we're going through whatever we're going through, the soul, the higher self would always say, there's two sides to it. The ego would say, well, this is the worst thing ever. But then the higher self would say, no, there's a tremendous benefit to this. So when we're going through it, if I were to ask you, tell me what the greatest thing about this is, would you have been able to see any benefit from it at that time?
Not at that time. No.
Right. So now looking at it as the observer of what happened, what do you see as the greatest benefit from it?
The greatest benefit from that whole experience taught me such massive discernment on dealing with everybody and everything that I would not have had that. And it also empowered me that I know I can make an instant shift in not dwelling in pain or grinding on any uncomfortable situation. Like we have the ability to shift instantly. Yes. And it's more like a muscle that we get stronger and stronger, that we can do it really quickly and not stay in that place.
Yes. So let's give our listeners kind of a how-to in shifting, if that's okay, because I think this is a great segue.
It's a great thing because a lot of people are dealing with pain, but they're stuck in that pain and they don't know how to get out of it.
Yes. So, and I'll go after you, but what steps do you like to take? Like, do you have your method?
I have my version of how I deal with pain. So I get quiet. I go within and I do kind of a self-analysis as to, okay, why did this show up in my life? What is this here to teach me? What am I to gain and learn? What's the opposite of what I am experiencing right now? That is the lesson in this, because every situation shows up for us to teach us something, to have us grow in some way. So instead of looking at things as being bad or bad things happening to us, or, people being mean and nasty, well, what are they there to teach us? What's the lesson from this experience, from this person? And then once you get that lesson and see it clearly, then you can just make that instant shift to say, okay, I got it. You kind of anchor it within your being, and then you move on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what do you see when you have painful things?
Yeah. So when I have pain and going on, and listen, with the energy going on now, trust me, I've been doing a lot of self work, but when I'm going through that, I can tell you recently I've been doing a lot of it, is I go into a meditation. I love doing meditations like Joe Dispenza meditations. And what I'll do is in my meditation, I will literally bring in a reflective mirror, and I will be looking at myself, and then I will literally see myself separate from my ego, and I will have my higher self, and I'll bring in like my guides and my angels, and I'll say, what is the true reason why I had to learn this? Why did I have to experience this? Because I'm creating every part of my reality. In order for me to have this pain and suffering, I had to call in whatever experience is causing that pain and suffering. So I see it as the observer, and I ask myself why I called it in. And then I get the answers. I feel the answers just being given to me. It's like they're just speaking right to me. And then once I have that understanding, just like you were saying, I go into the opposite. I bless it, I thank it, then I see myself in the opposite way. So if I realize I had to go through something because it taught me that it showed me that I was putting myself down, or I was having no self-respect or self-gratitude, then I'll go into the opposite, and then I'll start praising myself, or I'll start listing everything I'm grateful for about myself and my life and everything in my life. And then in my meditations, I'll start seeing the reflection of everyone around me, because if I was beating myself up, I'll see the reflection of the people that were mean to me and how I actually brought them in at that moment to fulfill that role for me. So once I can see that, then the fear and the pain just dissolve. And then I'm able to step back into that new reality where now it doesn't serve me. And now I become that empowered, grateful, thankful version of me.
Right. And that's the key thing also with all these experiences that are painful and these hard lessons, is to be grateful for them, because they ultimately, we called them to us to teach us something. That person that is, being the bully or whatever they are, they're called into your life to teach you something.
Yes.
If you're with a spouse and you're at odds with each other, well, you guys called each other together for whatever it is you need to learn.
Yes.
And I think also at this point would be really key. You do your Ho'oponopono, and this would be something anybody experiencing pain right now, if you want to say what that is, they could just do this at home just to shift through whatever they're going through. So if you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So with Ho'oponopono, that is a great technique for helping to release pain and suffering. So with Ho'oponopono, it's a Hawaiian technique that we use for self-reflection. So let's say, for example, I am feeling, let's say I'm feeling worthless. So what I'll do is I will think of the situation that could have happened if someone said something to me, or something was done to me, or someone's attacking me. And I, from that, chose to feel worthless. With Ho'oponopono, there's 4 phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So what I would start out by doing is I would acknowledge myself. So I would say to my highest, most divine self. So I'm getting my highest self to come forward and help me with this. And then the first line I would say is, there's a reason why I had to experience this. So I would say, for whatever reason I had to experience or take responsibility for feeling worthless. And then all of a sudden I'm going to feel all these other feelings, for feeling worthless, unappreciated, unloved, unimportant, not valuable, a loser, whatever it may be. Then I'm saying to myself, I'm sorry for believing all of those false beliefs. Then the second line I say is, please forgive me, because somebody had to teach me this, whether it's my parents, my grandparents, my ancestors, media, society. Somebody had to teach me to automatically think that I'm the problem. Someone had to teach me to beat myself up, or to go immediately to thinking that I'm worthless. So whoever I learned that from, I'm saying to myself, please forgive me for holding on to those false beliefs that are not mine. And the third thing I say is thank you. Thank you for cutting the cord. So I cut the cords, and I clean and clear the energy around that feeling of being worthless or not good enough or unloved or unappreciated. So I'm saying to myself, thank you for cutting the cords and cleaning, clearing that energy. Then I'm reversing it so I could see the positive. And I'm saying to myself, thank you through this experience for actually showing me that I am the love. Because when my soul was standing here knowing I'm the love and my ego was feeling unloved, it was showing me through this experience that I am the love. So I thank my higher self for showing me that this experience is proving to me that I'm the love, that I'm the power, that I'm the source. And then the last is, I love you. That's the last phrase. But when you say I love you, you're saying I love you with such an intensity, like the intensity of when you saw your children born for the first time, or the love of a parent or a loved one or a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a puppy or a kitten. That intense love, you're putting that into your heart, and you're saying to yourself, I love you. The most intense I love you you can ever imagine. And then that helps me clear it in a very powerful way.
It does. I mean, when you do that with me, it is so powerful, and it just clears whatever that negative energy is. It just lifts. So everybody could do this at home, and just, you could replay this part and just clear whatever you all have to clear that you're holding on to.
Yes. So now the next question I want to ask you next about pain and suffering is, a lot of people say, well, the ego goes like this. The ego says, I want to move towards pleasure and away from pain. That's the two things to try. That's the two polarities. So a lot of people that I come in contact with, whether patients or other people that I'm working with, they'll do everything they can to move away from pain or stuff down pain, or try and make it so that will never happen again. If they were in a bad relationship, they say, I don't ever want to date again. Or if they were in a bad marriage, I'm never getting married again. Or if they had a bad boss, I don't ever want to go to work again. I don't ever want to do this again. They just want to stick their head into the sand. But moving towards pleasure is interesting, because when we seek to be comfortable, it may take a temporary period of being uncomfortable, of looking at the reason why it showed up. So another favorite author of mine, Dr. DeMartini, he says, to truly find comfort, we have to be willing to get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But the uncomfortable feeling is not going to be permanent. It's just a temporary feeling. But if we're willing to do that, to look at the false beliefs, then we will always have comfort.
Right. That's so true. And I do think a lot of people, I know I've done it myself, when you're in such a painful situation, I will never do that again because it was so painful. But when you truly heal on a deep level, then you are open to experience what caused you such pain, as far as a relationship, marriage. I swore I'd never ever marry again because it was so painful getting divorced. But yes. I realized after years of doing a lot of healing, I am open then to be married again, because I healed whatever that pain was.
Yes.
So I think if you're resisting, whatever you resist persists. Mm-hmm. So if you're resisting something in your life because of a painful experience, then there's something there that you haven't healed that is preventing you from experience joy and happiness, whatever that could be, whether it's with somebody else or an experience or, anything that caused you such intense pain.
Yes. Holly, another technique I like to give to our listeners is to help shift out of this false belief of pain and suffering, is writing ourselves a letter. So let's say I'm going through a period where I'm beating myself up, or I'm really hard on myself, or I'm thinking I'm not good enough. I tell people, write a letter. So it's like I would write a letter. I say, okay, Matt, right now I'm thinking like I'm not good enough. Where did this come from? Then all of a sudden, this stuff starts pouring through me. Well, it started, I remember this happened and this happened. And then I remember this happening when I was 12. And then this happened. And when I was 22, this happened. And all of it starts coming out. So then what I do is, now that it's coming out, I go deeper. I say, okay, now that I'm feeling unworthy or worthless or not good enough, I then ask myself, is it true? And then immediately I hear, no, it's not true. Great. So who taught me this? And then I'll hear, oh, my grandfather or my grandmother or my, whoever it may be. And then I'll say, great. So at that moment, when I was observing them feeling worthless, I chose to take it on and believe that that's a valid choice to feel. Now that I realize I don't have to take that on, I now can let go of why I took on that belief. Now I got to the core of it, because my brain was just running away from the pain of ever thinking I was unworthy of being loved. So right. Now it moves me into empowerment. And then I have a choice to say, I don't ever have to feel like this again, because the moment something happens that could make me feel like that, I can choose to stop it and then shift it and then feel empowered.
Right. And that is the key thing. As we start growing that muscle within our being to shift quickly, you can just stop yourself instantly and not go down that slippery slope and start, spiraling down in that woe is me and all those negative feelings. You can just instantly see it and correct it in that moment.
Yes.
And that's when okay, I've really gotten a good handle on this, and we don't have to be living in pain. We don't have to be living in suffering at all. That suffering and pain, especially suffering, that is a belief that we have to suffer. We don't have to suffer. We can live in joy and peace and harmony and with ease.
Yes. And when you say that, it brings to mind, I remember my daughter, when she was probably just a year old, and we were at a fair, and we had gotten her a balloon, like a little helium balloon, and she was in the car and she was holding it, and she had the window open, and then she does what any 1-year-old would do, and she lets go, and the balloon flies out the window, and she starts immediately crying. And then she didn't know my wife had another balloon up front, and she turns around, gives her the balloon, and she stops crying. So if you think about how simple it is, at that moment, she chose to just stop being upset. She could have kept crying that one balloon was gone. Right. But she chose to realize, okay, well, look what is in my life, another balloon. That means there's an infinite source of balloons, and I really didn't lose anything. So right. Children are amazing. They show us how to shift so quickly.
Right.
And it's amazing.
That just goes to show, whatever we think we're losing or feeling, there's something. When one door closes, another door is opening. So what you think you're losing, it's giving you an opportunity for something better to show up in your life.
Absolutely.
If you dwell and stay, mulling over this bad situation, that's all you're going to keep creating is more and more of the bad, same feelings and situation, instead of saying, okay, this is an opportunity for growth. This is an opportunity for me to become more empowered for something better that's coming. I see it now like an up leveling. Whenever these situations happen, like I'm being up leveled to another frequency and vibration of being more empowered than I was before.
It's so true.
Yes.
So true. Yeah. There's always expansion.
Yes.
Right? It's always expansion. When we allow ourselves to know there's always expansion, then we will always experience that expansion.
Yes. And there's never a limit on the amount of expansion, because that's what we as spiritual beings having a human experience are. We are just in a perpetual state of expanding our consciousness over and over and over to different levels of consciousness of ourselves that we didn't even know existed.
Yes.
And that to
Correct.
me
And
is, it's infinite. It's exciting. Like I look back 10 years ago where my consciousness was to where I am now. And oh my God, it's so funny. Like when you think that you're awakened on some level back then, and then where you are now, it's like, okay, I wasn't even awake. Like I thought I was, but I wasn't.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's so true. I don't even recognize myself from 10 years ago.
Right.
I'm a completely different person. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Holly, this is amazing. So in wrapping this up, let's give our listeners like a summary of what they can do.
So if you're if you're in a painful experience right now, whatever you're going through, and you're in suffering, stop and do that inventory of your life. Why is this happening? Why is this showing up? What is it to teach me? What is the lesson gained from this that I called this into my existence right now at some level to teach me something? And then have gratitude for it. Just gratitude for this lesson, even if it's so painful. And then see the opposite of whatever, like you said, if it's unworthiness, well, then it's to teach me to be worthy. If, I saw you this week and I was being knocked off of my foundation of who I was as a person. No, I know who I am as a person. I'm going to stay stronger, firmly planted on my foundation. Like I'm not going to allow somebody to knock me off of my foundation. So Absolutely. It's every single Beautiful. Thing.
Yeah. So also this is the time for. Yes.
Say that again, because you
Absolutely.
Broke up.
And this is the time also for our listeners. Don't give up. This is the time when if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling lonely or depressed, this is the time to go within. This is the time to do the work. When you don't want to meditate, do your meditations. When you don't think you can do it, do it. When you feel like just sitting home and sulking, don't write the letters, do the Ho'oponopono. This is where we have to rise above and we have to go within. And then you will see incredible changes.
Yes. And then get into that place of joy, whether it's playing happy, upbeat music, going walking in nature, exercising. When I exercise, I feel so much better about myself. I mean, it's just kicking the endorphins into the body and you just feel good because you're doing something for yourself. Play meditation music or listen to an audio that's positive and uplifting. You've got to shift your mind focus out of the negative and into the positive, because whatever you put in is what's going to come out. So positive in, positive out, negative in, it's going to be negative out.
Yes, absolutely right. I love it.
Yes.
Well, this was excellent, Holly. I really appreciate the time with you on this podcast.
Love these. Absolutely. Yes. So everybody, be your empowered, most expansive, enlightened being that you can be. And Matt, what do you want to say?
And don't ever forget that you are the love and you are the empowered being of yourself. Don't ever let somebody else tell you who you are. You're always the source.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, have a wonderful, blessed day, everybody. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, thank you, Holly. It was great to be with you. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining Healing Through Love, and please stay tuned for future shows. And join us as we spread the power of love.